Hello, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Sunday show. This is not a scheduled Sunday show because you're looking for the better, more handsome baldy guy, Scott, but he's off. This is the Monday show, which we're doing on Sunday because on Monday we'll hopefully be beating Hibs. He says, fingers crossed. I hope you've all had a splendid Sunday. Few things have happened possibly to cheer us up. Davie, my long-term sufferer and Rangers historian. You popped up on Rangers Telly a wee bit recently, mate. How are you? You well?
I'm
Not
good.
long to your holiday again.
Yeah. Well, I thought I would grace you with my presence before I go back to Tenerife again. Yeah, it's good. It's good to be here, and I think the bonus today is surely to God there won't be any of the other side in the comments today because they'll be too busy throwing sharks at each other.
Yeah, the numbers are going to take an almighty hit tonight. That's for sure. There'll be about 3 viewers in the comments, I'm sure. Sheryl, how are you? You well?
Beautiful Sunday. I'm just going to echo some of the comments. Yeah, I had a lovely afternoon of viewing. I watched the Newcastle Sunderland game. I thought that was excellent. And then I had a lovely, lovely end to my afternoon.
Rob, how are you? Well? Are you well, mate? Are you good?
I'm good. I'm really good. Glad to be on with my favourite buddies on the pod tonight. You know, it's just really, really good. Yes. Always nice to top off the weekend talking about football.
I know, ladies and gentlemen, it kind of feels like a homeless person slagging off somebody's curtains, but that was funny as fuck. And I loved every single second of it. So forgive me if that makes me petty. But yeah, there it is. We'll talk about it a bit more, but let's look forward to Rangers. Danny Rohl has spoke ahead of Rangers game with Hibs on tomorrow night, and yeah, he says we had a meeting this morning about the Ferencváros game. I keep calling them Fenerbahce. I did it in the comments, and they were all like sharks, honestly, on at me straight away. Who's Fenerbahce? We spoke about the game. It's important that we speak about this, and now we have to move forward to the next games. In the league, we want to continue our run with 5 wins and 2 draws. We all do, Danny, we all do. From the game on Thursday, we can learn a lot about moments. There is always what I tell everyone. I talk to my players about consistency. Again, on Thursday, we had 2 phases in the game. We have some good phases where we create something, where we are very compact and good in defence. Then we have some phases where we lose our structure in and out of possession. This is what we have to improve, especially at this level in Europe, to take something. Davie, I mean, he's quite right. He puts it quite diplomatically. The 2 phases of things is probably quite relevant because we look okay. And I thought at times on Thursday we looked quite well set up. We looked quite resolute. And then he says we have some phases where we lose our structure in and out of possession, which is kind of like when me and Kenny come on here and we just say it's all gone to shit, because it does.
Yeah, he went back to a back 3 in Thursday night, and I've been on here a couple of times saying I wanted us to go back to a 3 because I thought it would cover up for individual mistakes better. How much do I know? Because what we then watched was a back 3 that at times did all right, but how many times was the last gasp tackles? How many times did we lose a man? How many times did somebody wander out of position? We might as well go back to a back 4 and put another attacker on, because that defence is beyond help, I think, when it comes to individual errors. And I think that's not going to stop until there's simply better players in the defence than we've got right now. Fenerbahce, I'm calling them Fenerbahce. Ferencváros weren't any great shakes, although they have done really well in the competition. They didn't have to do anything for their 2 goals, and that's been happening all season. Teams have not had to work that hard to score against us, and that's really got to stop. I think if I slightly go back to the events of this afternoon, I know Hearts are top of the league, but if ever was a time for us to get our act together, that Celtic team is absolutely dreadful. If ever was a time for us to just get through the next couple of weeks with what we've got and strengthen, then who knows how the second half of the season might turn out.
Yeah, Sheryl, to concentrate on ourselves. I know we're all dying to have our say on things elsewhere, and obviously Hearts winning again yesterday. Just on Danny Rowe, obviously a lot of he's come in for criticism, and Rob, I'll pitch you in the same kind of question after Sheryl as well. That he's come in for criticism, and it's very easy for us all to sit and say he shouldn't play Giga, he shouldn't play Fernandes, he shouldn't play Asgard, he shouldn't play Chermiti, but his hands are tied somewhat. And although I don't think that Danny Rowe is perfect by any means, I think that he's been given the really blunt end of the stick, to be quite honest with you. And I think what he's saying here is he's quite right. We do at times look okay, we look organised, we look like we're fairly accomplished. And then at other times it looks like we just teamed up 5 minutes ago in the car park. And that must be, as a head coach or a manager, whatever you want to describe him as, must be so disheartening. You've seen how angry he was on Thursday, but I think his comments there, again, are pretty much spot on. And I like, yeah, I'm a sucker and everything, I get it. I do like him, and I think he speaks well.
Yeah, I like him too. And do you know what, that game on Thursday for me was just like a microcosm of the season. We get ourselves into a position where, no, actually we look all right. We managed to take the lead. We looked fairly settled. And then just a really, really stupid mistake at the back, which we've seen time and time and time again, crops up, and that's us. And then I had the feeling as well that we didn't have the character, we didn't have the leaders for that second half on Thursday that would be able to take anything from that game. But it just kind of sums up the state of where we're in. I thought he was quite clever in terms of what he said of, there's things that we can take from this. I don't think there's anything that we can take from it that he hasn't already have taken. I think he has to be quite clever with what he says, because he knows exactly what he's dealing with. He can't come out and slaughter them. And as you say, Stevie, he's playing with almost two hands tied behind his back because of what he has in front of him. I don't think he's blameless, but I think a lot of us are hanging our hats on Cameron and Curtis coming in, being these messiahs. We don't know. He's playing with a really difficult set of cards. Like Davie says, we need to get ourselves to January, but it's difficult trying to work out what the priority is. But I think it was Natalie that said it in the comments. We have to strengthen that defence. The only thing we do have is we have Sterling on his way back, and then Ciala, but again, he looked a wee bit ropey at times. I think we maybe need to give him some minutes. I would maybe look at tomorrow. I know we'll come on to that, guys, but looking at giving both of them a wee bit of time at the back tomorrow, because we're going to need them over the next few weeks.
Rob, what's your thoughts on Rohl's comments, and just a wee bit of kind of your thoughts after Thursday? And it's almost like a bipolar Rangers team. At one moment, you get okay, and in the next, because we did score a lovely goal, we do at times look very compact. I thought we were set up really well, but when you have that level of individual mistakes, Rohl's right. We do, obviously we have to improve. I think that goes without saying, but Davie's seen him with me. You've seen him at press conferences and stuff. I thought it was very telling when they asked him a couple of weeks ago, how many players do you need in January? And he kind of laughed, and it was a nervous kind of moment. And he could get that point of view. If he was Scottish, he would be saying bloody plenty or something like that. But you got the feeling that I think he knows. I think it's quite clear. If he doesn't know, then we'd be in a hell of a lot of bother. But I think he does.
I think the players were getting a little bit of a pass because of who they were playing under before Danny Rohl came in. Now that Danny's come in, I think it's clear to see just how bad that summer recruitment window was. And to be fair, the way that I'm looking at Rangers at the moment, Europe, I'm not even focusing on, even thinking about. The performances that we have in Europe are, I don't even give them a second thought just now, because for me, getting back to the bread and butter of the league was the most important thing. And if you look at the limitations that we've got with the players available with that squad and with the quality of players that have been brought in, he's done a bloody good job to steady the ship and actually keep us in with a fighting chance of being at the top of the league, and turning around the form that Martin had come in from. I think he mentioned it in his an interview that got released this week about the team meeting and stuff. He acknowledges that within games, players are reverting to type, and it's going to take him time to be able to change that mindset in some of those players. Again, we've said it before, he's not actually had a great deal of time to work with these players. It's kind of game recovery. So it's all about trying to be a clear communicator and getting the message over in between the number of games that we're going to have, in the hope that they start to pick it up. I think it's very, very clear that defence definitely needs to get sorted out. And again, you look at what the noises that he's making about speaking to Andrew Kavanagh quite a lot, already kind of highlighting the type of player, the attitude and the skills that they're going to need through the door. You'd like to think that that's going to cover some of the gaps. For me, though, that might only be 3 or 4 players. That's not going to be the rip it up and start over again that I think most of us think that we need. So he's still going to have to try and get the best out of some of these players, because we're not going to be able to get rid of them all. And he's not going to do what Martin did, which is throw them under a bus. He's obviously still trying to give them a little bit of protection, because he knows he's going to have to probably count on them, whether we like that or not. It's just the situation that we're in. So, for me, he's done a great job with what he's got at his disposal. People coming back, the likes of Dujon Sterling, should help us and strengthen us a little bit. But equally, he's not exactly the most reliable when it comes to injuries. So we might only have him for a couple of games, and then we're going to have to pull back in a Jiga, or even look to turn to somebody like Nsiala. So I think it's just a case of having a little look at what's available and how we can get the best out of them, and hopefully building the confidence of the players that are there, because part of the backroom team is obviously a sports psychologist as well. So I imagine that he'd be trying to work with some of the players to really understand what's holding them back and why they keep defaulting into the shit play that we've seen from him over the last kind of 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I was doing so well. After Kenny and I's post-match on Thursday, we got a warning from YouTube about our explicits and how many swears we said, and it was doing really well on Friday night, and then Amrit swooped in with his Alsatian quip and broke the internet for it. So yeah, by the way, folks, see if you go in and quote that to him in his ice cream stores, he gives you 10% off. But moving on, just a wee bit on what Rob was saying there. Danny did say also, even in our games in the league, we always have some moments where we drop a little bit back into old habits or we lose our heads. This is what we have to improve. But this, for me as a coach, is normal in the process at the moment. You have these small ups and downs, and then you can make them smaller and smaller. We're still looking for a 90-minute performance. I think it drops in the game, the understanding, it drops in tactical understanding. And sometimes we're running, but running in the wrong moments. It's not just running, it's also about running with a good mindset, but I still see a process. I think this is crucial. I do not think everything is bad after this defeat. We're disappointed. We should be. That's a good sign. Now we move on, and Monday is a big game and a big opportunity. Davie, I spoke about this the other night. I sometimes see them when they're playing about at the back, and I think Jack Butland's really guilty of this. He starts trying to pass the way that Russell Martin maybe wanted him to pass at the start of the season, which was, hair of your arse, kind of terrifying moments that we all had. And I saw a lot of that on Thursday night, and I wanted him to be a wee bit more sensible with the ball, and he maybe wasn't. And that's not like, that's me being really picky, because Jack's been great. But I still see moments where we're maybe doing the wrong things. And I thought on Thursday, I'll say it again, I thought we were really well set up. You could see a shape there. You could see the formations. You could see it where we wanted to be. But I do think there's a lot in what Danny Rohl's saying that I read, and I think, yeah, he's got a point.
Oh, he absolutely does have a point. I suppose most goals teams concede, you can put it down to a mistake somewhere along the line, can't you? But the ones last Thursday night were pretty blatant. I thought Tavernier's positioning for the big long pass out to the wing, I don't know what he was doing. And it was just about 5 minutes earlier than that, he was about 10 yards further forward than the other two at the back and totally out of position again. No wonder he get taken off. When it comes to Butland, I'm struggling to slag him too much this season, because I think over the piece...
Definitely not a slagging, more just a kind of reflection on...
I get that. I get that. All I'm saying is that I'd be struggling to criticise him too much based on the shit show that's been in front of him for a lot of the time. But I do think that, not just him, but some of the back four as well, sometimes try and play their way out of trouble when it's so much more obvious, just to get it out of the way and reset yourself. I thought Big Fernandez a couple of times on Thursday night as well tried to wander out the back as if he was Maldini or Baresi. which he will never be, by the way. Yeah, but I think the old expression about only being able to work with the equipment you have, or for want of a better way, a polite way of putting it, is exactly the position we're in at the moment. Rohl has tried all kinds of formations. He's tried all set of combinations in midfield, combinations at the back. He's tried different players up front. He's tried players who are out in the wing, aren't usually wingers, but he's trying them out there. He's tried all kinds of things. I do think the one criticism most people have is he doesn't seem to have given the two young Scots guys the chances that he's given others.
Davie, for some reason you have muted yourself, so I'm going to try and unmute. There you go. I don't know what happened there, mate.
My hands were up here as well. I don't know how I managed that one.
Keep your hands where we can see them, mate.
Where did I get to? Did I get to Curtis? Did I?
No, we hadn't heard that yet.
All right. Well, okay. I was basically saying that Rohl has he's tried all kinds of different things, and I think that the one criticism people have him is, for whatever reason, he's not really trusted the two young Scots players yet in the squad. But I do think after last Thursday night, we will see Curtis tomorrow. I think he's a virtual certainty to play after his substitute appearance the other night. I don't know if he'll play Cameron, but I think he will play Curtis. But no matter who plays tomorrow night, you fear that somebody's going to make a mistake, don't you? Because that's what we've been watching all season. And it'll be interesting to see what he goes with tomorrow, because picking a team tomorrow is almost like putting names in a hat some of the time. Yeah,
he doesn't have an abundance of options, that's for sure, Rob. And Sheryl, just when we think we've fixed something else seems to spring up and pop up. And one of the things that I've came to light again is James Tavernier, who is back to going through what is a difficult run, I would say. Danny was asked about it the other night. He says Tav is an experienced player, tries to help the group. I think Tav has good moments where you really see he can lift us and he is calm. And then he has some moments where he is involved in some situations. But this is football. I see he's very ambitious. He is still hungry. He invests a lot in training in the game. And this is a good part of what it means for the future. I think we will see in the next time then. Listen, James Tavernier will split and continue to split opinion, Sheryl. And Rob, I'm keen to get you to come in on this as well. We've talked about this. Kenny and I were talking about James Tavernier almost when this podcast began. Certainly last summer and this summer, we said it was a step too far. What I didn't want to see and what I think I see now is, bear in mind I'm prone to talking nonsense, is that James Tavernier's body is beginning to fail him. Like the other night, he just couldn't stop the cross. He just couldn't get there. And I'm not saying he's been perfect at it. I think, and here's a controversial point, Max Aarons has looked comfortable in the last few games that he's played. I think Max Aarons should be starting at right back. And this is a wee bit like, Sophie's choice as such at this moment in time, because they're nowhere near being great, either of them. So I think there is questions there. And obviously you've got people say James Tavernier didn't play at Kilmarnock and we won 3-0 and he only came on late, and that makes it difficult. But I think there's big selection issues tomorrow night. Does he stick with Fernandes? Because Dujon Sterling did look comfortable. Fernandes did have a bad moment. And just when you're thinking that Giga was out, he actually played all right the other night. Giga defensively had some good tackles, but positionally, you could sit and go through every one of them and argue for and against them. But James Tavernier conversation is once again at the forefront, and it'll be interesting for me what he does with regard to that selection tomorrow.
Yeah, do you know what? That's a difficulty with it, because you've spoken about Tav, you've spoken about Fernandes, you've spoken about Giga. It's so back and forward with these guys, because we were only talking about Fernandes a couple of weeks ago, saying, look, he might be a wee bit raw, not in terms of his age, but in terms of his game time and his experience. However, he looks like there might be a player in there somewhere. However, his mistake on Thursday was awful. And what I would say is, whilst I know he's not the answer, and I know he will go back to Wolves, I thought Giga actually had a couple of good challenges on Thursday night and looked marginally better than he had done, but the bar is exceptionally low. And I realise that Tav's legs have gone, Stevie, you've said that. But again, Aaron's is one we've had a conversation about, who just looked completely and utterly out of his depth. However, at the moment, I think he should start tomorrow. I think he should start on the right tomorrow. This week, I think we have to take it on a game-by-game basis. I think as of tomorrow, he is the better option at right back, and I think he should be starting ahead of Tav. I have no problem about managing Tav and bringing him on every so often, or starting him and taking him off, but his legs have gone now, and I've seen an excellent point in the comments. He's almost going the same way as Alan McGregor did, whereas he's just stayed on that bit too long, and he's starting to make mistakes which are showing up. So for me, it would be Aaron's tomorrow.
I don't think there's really much choice there either, to be honest. But I guess it depends on the shape that he's going to go with, because he might end up going to the back three again, like he did against Hibs when we played them at Easter Road. And if he does, you've got to say Aaron's was probably a bit more suited in that right wing back space, because he does have a bit more legs than Tav. You know, people have been saying, could Tav even move into the right centre half position? You know, there's potentially an option there, but defensively, Tav's always been suspect, even when he did have his fitness in his legs there. There was always that moment where he would switch off, and that was always the biggest criticism that we as fans had with him. You know, ultimately, he still can offer a little bit going forward, but at the moment, he's becoming more of a liability than the player to get us out of jail. And when it starts to happen like that, you've got to look at other alternatives, even though the other alternative doesn't exactly fill me with confidence either at this moment in time. You know, could it end up being that if he does play a back four, he sticks Sterling at right back and he puts Giga and Fernandes at centre half again, and we see that as an option? Who knows? I think all we need is whoever is selected, that they try and minimise the brain farts, so that we can at least try and keep a clean sheet against Hibs and make it a nice, easy routine 2-3-0 win. But we've said it since the start of the season. We said it back end of last season. We need to have a plan to get Tav out the team. You know, Aaron's had joined at the start of the season. We all thought that was going to be the person to do it. You know, he was shown up a little bit, and I think really lacked confidence. You're beginning to see him at least starting to come out a wee bit more, which is nice. He's a bit more attacking. But it just beggars belief why we knocked the head on Josh Mulligan, because he would have been a great utility player to be able to come in and solve that potential issue by being able to have him slotting it right back as well as in centre mid.
Yeah, and it's particularly difficult when you watch him performing and then you start to see the interest in him, and then you watch the other young boy, Kamara, who's out in Portugal, just lighting it up. And these are things that we had already had in place and we're sitting there. So yeah, I mean, thanks for that, Rob. That just makes us feel even better. But let's look ahead to tomorrow night. I had my say the other night when I kind of threw in the idea that I would just put Curtis, Moore and Gassama in for just the sheer unpredictable nature behind Miovski. I still think Miovski will be all right tomorrow night. I think that was more of a kind of dead leg in the back of his hamstring more than it was a hamstring, because the boy, when he jumped, kind of need him in the back of this. I think he'll be fine. Raskin and Barron in midfield, and then, well, it's a take your pick of the back four, really. Makoma probably starts at left back because there is simply nobody else. Aaron's does start for me at right back. Sterling starts in centre half, and it's a hit and a miss. Fernandes at times has looked all right. You can see the promise. And then at other times you're like, mate, why are you trying to mark the clouds? And Giga to me defended okay the other night, but then at moments positionally and that he's all over the place. So it's like, what do you do when you push one pop up down, you know, the other one pops up at the other side? So I don't really know. There's no answer to this. Loads of people say, Stevie, what would you do? And there's only so much Danny can do or whatever. And the answer is, I don't know. And I'm probably in the same predicament that Danny Rohl's in. There's no obvious answer to this. Davie, how would you go? And then Sheryl, Rob, jump in with your thoughts ahead of tomorrow night.
How we go tomorrow night? If I assume Miovski's fit, because you've given me a bit of confidence that that's the case, then the number 9 role picks itself. A, he's scoring goals at last, which is great, and B, the other two options for that just don't be thinking about just now, because the two of them look miles and miles off what we need. So he's up front. I'd probably go back to the 4-2-3-1. So the three behind Majowski. I think I would play Moore, Cameron and Curtis as a three, but not nail them down to any one particular role and just let them be attacking football players. a bit like what you were talking about. You had Gassama in yours. I think I'd prefer to see Cameron, I think, playing behind the strikers. I think the two in midfield pick themselves, Barron and Raskin, I think at the moment are the men in possession and they're doing a good job, and I don't see a reason to break that up. And at the back, I think Sterling's our best right back, our best left back, and our best centre back at the moment. And I'm trying to figure out which one's the best place to put him in tomorrow. I think I'm with you. Tavernier, I think, definitely needs a rest. I think he definitely needs to sit out for the sake of the team first and foremost, but also for his, I think, as well. I would probably play Aarons at right back, Sterling in the middle, and I would play Fernandes beside him, even though he had that brain fart on Thursday night, mainly because he's our player, and I don't think there's any real future for Giga at Rangers. He's going to be about to go to AFCON. If I was in charge at Ibrox, I'd be trying to send him back to Wolves in January, to be quite honest with you. And for what we're paying Wolves for him, I don't think it's worth it. He's just going to keep making mistakes. I would rather see our player beside Sterling at the back. There's an argument in Ciala deserves a chance, but I don't know if I'd play him and Sterling together because none of them have played enough this season to put both of them in at the one time. So I think I'd play Sterling and Fernandes and McComa at the left back, and obviously Barton and go.
Yeah, I don't think I'd probably change too much for that, David, to be honest, either. I think Gassama, or Gasman, as you love Amrit calling him, Stevie. I think I would be dropping him just to give him a little bit of space out the team, because I think there was an air of petulance about him again on Thursday night, and they're throwing their hands in the air, and again he needs to realise that this is a team game, and ultimately they need to be a bit more playing like a team. I'm not too sure if I'm Kieran Moore being shoved out wide, because I think he is better behind in the middle of the pitch. He's a lot more effective and he gives us that bit of drive. But it would be good to see wee Cameron come in and given some minutes, because I definitely think that he would give you the work rate and the effort. And we've seen from his time at Dundee last year, he's got a bit of a quality and a goal about him as well. So I don't think that would be too far away. It's just you could pick names out of a hat for the defensive positions, and any one of the lineups that you could come up with, I probably would say doesn't fill us with great confidence, unfortunately, at the moment. So,
only thing I would worry about is starting Sterling. I would maybe try and build him up a wee bit, because we're going to need him over the next few weeks with Giga going away. So I maybe wouldn't start him, but I would certainly be looking to get him on at some point, even at half-time tomorrow, because we're going to need to rely on him, I would imagine, over the next few weeks. And I would like to get, as I said earlier, in Ciala, just to get a wee bit of time to have a proper look at him as well.
Yeah, he's been out of the picture for quite a while. Let's move away from tomorrow night's game. There's been a couple of things I've hit the headlines. Joe Rothwell being one of them, apparently being pursued by several championship clubs. Lads, look, you don't have to pursue him that hard. Like, we're very open to discussions. Just, come and pick him up, really, is all we're asking. Derby County and Sheffield United apparently heavily linked with him. I spoke about this again the other night. I'll just get you all to jump in on this as well. I'm assuming there's no obvious pushback on this from anyone. Do we think Joe Rothwell's been guilty, Rob, of maybe just wrong place, wrong time, or just everybody just fire in? Like, if there is a player in Joe Rothwell, are we seeing it? Have we to see it? Or is it just a case of he's one of half a dozen to go out in January?
I think Dougie will be distraught, because that breaks up the best midfield in the country. Unfortunately, I'm really disappointed with the way the Rothwell.
Hold on, is that not tragic, Patter? He told me the other day. So
And remember, he
it's
said potentially. He didn't
Oh,
say
right,
they
okay.
were. He said
Okay.
potentially. Don't misquote him, Rob. It's batshit enough without misquoting him.
Potentially. No, I'm actually disappointed because I was really excited by him reading and talking to a few Leeds fans about the player that we we're going to get there. I think you're probably right, Stevie. It's probably wrong place, wrong time, and being tied to Martin. He's been absolutely dreadful, and I think every one of us would probably drive him down to Derby if it meant getting him off the books and freeing up space to bring somebody in that can actually add some value to the team. Because ultimately, that's what we need. We need players that are going to roll their sleeves up in the second half of the season. You know, might not be as creative and as fancy as some of the players that we've got. We just need them to work hard, fly into tackles, win the midfield battle, and dominate. But you're not going to get that with the player that we've seen from Rothwell as it stands. So it's a bye-bye for me.
Okay, same. Do you know what I'm really disappointed by? We were I know we brought it up in previous pods, Stevie, but we were promised this dead ball specialist that was going to take all the pressure off Tav as well. And he can barely run, let alone go and take a decent free kick. He just looks knackered. He looks unfit. He looks like he doesn't want to be here. There was a game he came on. I can't remember. Was it the Old Firm Cup semi? I can't remember. He came on at one point and he actually looked decent for about 10 minutes. There's been kind of fleeting bits. Was that it, Rob? Was it Hearts?
I think that was Hearts. I think it was the Hearts game he came on and he actually looked good then. Did he not have to go back off injured or something like that?
Probably.
He was my man of the match against Panathinaikos, and I thought he was terrific. They went down to 10, and I thought he was really good. And I thought, right, we've got a real cracker here in him in the 6, but just like all other promises in Rangers land, it's all just went to very quickly.
And I think the other thing about Rothwell is that Danny Rohl has been struggling to put a team together. He's tried all kinds of different things. He saw Rothwell once, and I don't think he's picked him again. He can hardly even get on the bench now. The manager's obviously made his mind up about him, I think. So the sooner he goes, the better.
But then can I ask you, Davie, what do you think he's seeing or not seeing in him that he's seeing in Asgard? Because he keeps pitching him in every so often, and I'm not getting it.
God only knows. I mean, I do think Asgard's this kind of poster boy for everything that's wrong, if you like, because people keep saying, oh, Rohl keeps playing his favourites, he keeps playing Asgard. Asgard's actually only played in 5 games that Danny Rohl started 5 games since Danny Rohl took over, and he was substituted at half time in 2 of them. So I think Rohl's run out of patience with him as well, to be honest with you. If you were going to ask me who else should go other than Rothwell, then there's all kinds of names you can throw in, but certainly Asgard must be really high up that list, I would imagine.
Right, so here's where I was going to come to with this. When we talk about January, and there is emotion in, and people have heard me rant and rave about absolutely everyone. And I make no apologies for that because, well, it's what I do, really. But who are we really looking to move on in January? Now, for me, the answers are quite obvious. See, when you ask like about Asgard and why does he keep Asgard cost $3.5 million, Joe Rothwell didn't. So we have to try and get something out of him. That's as simple as it is for me. And I think Davie's right, and by what he's saying that the manager is playing him less and less because even he is starting to realise maybe I just can't get a tune out of him. So that would be my explanation for that. And very much Chermiti is the same. It's almost like, you know, the manager is having to put them on, not because he's been forced to. I don't want that to become a dynamic, but probably because he knows he has to try and get something out of them. And that's why I think, Sheryl, in answer to your question, they two are still playing. But realistically, in January, if you look at Rothwell, if you look at Giga and Aarons and the lone guys, Cornelius may have to go if his injury is bad. Where are you in terms of, like, who's your ideal kind of ones that you look to move on in January realistically? Could you say, would you, for example, if Villarreal came and offered you 10 million or 8 to 10 million for Gassama, because Rangers are said to want twice what they paid for him, so that would be in the region of 5 million plus a bit more, they said. So let's pitch it in between that kind of magical number. If somebody come in for that, would you deal? Would you play Raskin out at this moment if there was proper bids? Would you sell Diamandi? I'm looking at kind of realistic, put emotion to the side. of your decisions, because it's very easy, and I'm the world worst for saying Meghoma, Cornelius, Aarons, Giga, Rothwell, sell them all, move them on. Miovski, I would have punted Miovski a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden he looks fairly decent up front. So don't try and use Stevie's method of bin everyone after a bad result. Use your head and give me some ideas, guys, on where January is for you and what's realistic. Rob, off you go, mate.
So I think it's more important about who you identify as the replacements before you can make the decision on who you're going to get rid of, because there's no point in selling Gassama for 10 million quid if we don't have somebody lined up to take that right wing or left wing spot. And I think that's going to be the critical factor of it. If we do have bids coming in for players and you could get 10 million for Gassama and replace him, absolutely, that's good, sensible financial management of the team, as long as that replacement is going to come in and be better, all the same as him as he was at the start of the year. I think it's clear as day we need to add strength to that defence. So if you were going to get rid of somebody, I would be ripping up Jiga's loan, because why do we keep persevering with him and get another experienced centre half in there? You're obviously going to have Suter coming back. You then have Fernandez, and you would have Enciala as well as Sterling. So you get a really good centre half in. You're probably going to have enough cover there without having to kind of break the bank on more signings. You need a left back, because we're really exposed at the moment with Magoma. And if Rothwell goes, he's not exactly been involved in most of the squads just now. We'd be really easy to deal with. You can use that, and that frees up another space that you bring in a left back for him. We then try and give more game time to the likes of Cameron and the others that are in there. But it's who we can identify and get in that's going to be the right quality for me that's the bigger issue. And because I think getting rid of players, we can potentially do that if we make the deal incentivised enough for people looking at them. But there's not going to be many people knocking down our door to come and sign Asgard, because his form hasn't been at the level. So while it's a great notion to say we want to get rid of all these players, they're only worth what somebody's willing to pay for. And at this moment in time, none of them have kicked their arse. So they're not going to be worth much in the eyes of a potential suitor. So it's going to be really, really difficult. And that's where some of the shouts around, looking at a player like Gogic, ultimately, not the fanciest name, knows the league, will give you 110, I'll give you 100% every week. And he'd be a bit like Marv signing when he did sign, because he'd be dependable and he wouldn't cost the earth for us to get in and get through the door.
Did I ask you about Gogic? Because he's my next thing to talk about after I get the January. Have I said that, or did I say it out loud? Was it one of my other voices in my head that I have various? But you've just skipped a chapter, Rob, so I don't want to get to Gogic yet, because I've got points to make on him. Sheryl, January for you, where are we?
Can I come in about Asgard? And I've just what I was going to say, I've just seen in the comments as well. I've never particularly been a big fan of him. I think he wants too much time on the ball. I just think he's one of these players that just it hasn't worked, and I don't think it will work. I seen something earlier saying he would be better with better players around him, possibly, but I can't see it working. The only thing I thought with him is his performances with Norway might be enough to attract somebody to have a look at him and think, well, he maybe just doesn't suit the Scottish game, and they would maybe take a punt on him. I think we'd be quicker, Stevie, making a list of who we actually want to keep. Because it's just such a mess, isn't it? The other one I thought of, and we won't get rid of him because he's injured, but another one that just hasn't worked for me is Ant-Man. Absolutely not. But we're in a position where he's injured. I think it's a couple of months, so he's going absolutely nowhere. Probably just the same as the guys, getting rid of the ones that have done absolutely nothing for us. We know that Rothwell will go. Cornelius as well. I think if his injury is particularly bad, they've got good grounds to send him back to his parent club. It's just quite depressing, actually, isn't it?
I think the thing is, when you think about January, it's a difficult one for Danny Rohl, because he must be sitting weighing it up, going, right, I could get rid of XYZ, but I perhaps can't get rid of XYZ. So would bringing in somebody help them become better? And that's the biggest conundrum he's got. personally don't think that if money comes in for Gassama, we're in the position to turn it down. I don't think we're in the position to turn it down for anyone, to be quite honest with you, in terms of having to regenerate the squad, which makes it interesting. But Davie, one thing I was going to ask, Rob kind of has jumped the question a wee bit, but finally, before we kind of wrap this up, the question of Scottish players and Scottish-based players has been for quite a while on the subject, and people talk about this need to buy players that understand it and get it. And you have to balance that up between who's good and how desperate we are in trying to find solutions. And I still think that when we talk about Finlay Curtis, when we talk about Lyle Cameron and things like that, as fans desperately wanting a solution, wanting to find something that will work, trying to get something in, and they might work. But I feel like that is now a name that's come up quite a lot, and Rob's kind of jumped the gun with it, is Gogic, Alex Gogic at St Mirren. I like him. I've spoke about him on this pod for quite a while. And I get it, but I don't watch St Mirren every week, right? And I watch him against us, and he seems to turn into prime against us. I think he's just a clever player. I watched the last 10 minutes of their game today, and he had a couple of fouls out by the touchline, just stopping attacks, and he just then trots back in. He's just such a clever player. We don't have anyone with the mindset that he can do. He's a leader. He's experienced. He knows it. And yeah, I mean, he's coming up again, and you'll get the criticism for suggesting it. And I understand that. I got criticism for suggesting that Stephen Robinson would be my kind of manager go-to if we couldn't get, at the time, Gerard Muscat, etc. And he's won a cup today. And that's why I always think that he had done quite well. So I feel like Gogic is one of those ones that can get you attack from supporters or people watching, and they'll say, oh, you're such a da, you want him and everything else. But for me, in a January, which is tricky, and we've got a lot to do, somebody like him just makes perfect sense. And he's somebody that can knit things together, and we don't have that. And I'm just of the opinion it wouldn't be the worst signing to make, even if you view it as being an 18-month thing. Then for me, that's the kind of people we don't have.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when a lot of people turned their nose up at us signing a guy called Davie Herd, because he was regarded as not good enough for this Rangers team that had ambitions in Europe and all that kind of stuff. I think our European performances in the last few years, not this season, have kind of brought in a bit of snobbery about who we should be going for. Mulligan get mentioned earlier. I think he was a really obvious one. Gogic would do a job for Rangers without doubt. Now, whether he's good enough to single-handedly turn that defence into something a bit better than it is just now, I'm not 100% sure. But the risk is really low, and I think I would also throw in another name that will probably get me slaughtered. I'm really keen on Rangers signing Kenny McLean, and it reminds me of when we brought in Scott Arfield, and everybody said, "Oh, he's too old. He's past it. He's not." He's a leader. He understands the club. He'd be brilliant in the dressing room. We've got a lot of players I think can learn off a guy like that. Plus, he's got World Cup to look forward to, and I think he'd be busting a gut every week to try and make sure he's in the plane to America. So players like that absolutely make sense to me. I don't think we can be snobs anymore. I don't think we can just look at these fancy European names and think that that's the way we need to go. We've been absolutely nowhere in the league for years. That's St Mirren won a trophy. Aberdeen have won a trophy. We've been absolutely nowhere near one. I think we need to concentrate on getting ourselves back where we need to be domestically. And if there's players who we know succeed in the domestic game, we'd be stupid not to think about them.
I think the thing when you mention Gogic, right, Sheryl and Rob, and you mention Kenny McLean, nobody's saying that these should be our star January signings. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying these should be the highlight of our January. What we're saying is we need to become competent again. We need to become resolute. We need to do these things. And at the moment we can't, because we don't have players that can do it. And we look like a very young, inexperienced team. So yes, we all want us to go out and sign £3-4 million centre backs that can actually defend. That would be nice. Job one, please. Don't stare at the clouds when there's a cross coming in. And two, we want, a number 6 that's decent. The boy Dal, who we are interested in, £3.5 million, seems like an alternative they're looking at, etc. So we like them. Everybody wants the fancy signings. But But I also want the guys that are going to work, the trustworthy guys, your Kevin Thompsons, your Broadfoots, your Alec Cleland, whose birthday it was the other day, and I was reminded of just how solid he was. And Davie, you'll know, just completely, wasn't he? He's just great, just a 7 out of 10 all the time. We don't have 7 out of 10 guys. So Sheryl, when people talk about Kenny McLean and Gogic, that's why, or that's how I feel.
Yeah, but we did that in the summer to an extent, Stevie. We threw a lot of money, or a lot of money for us certainly, at Asgard. We tried to get Ant-Man, and these were signings that people were actually quite excited by, but they haven't worked. And then we spoke about on the group chat this morning, we spoke about Shankland. There's been talk about Kenny McLean for ages. Mulligan was one. We've just made really, really poor decisions. Now, these guys aren't world beaters, but would we have been in a better position with them as our summer signings, rather than the ones that we did go for? I think so, absolutely. The only thing I will say, and I don't know how much you've paid them, Stevie, but there was a comment a bit earlier where somebody pinned the blame on all of our poor players and drawn together the kind of common theme as they've got here, and that we should be going for more baldies. And Rob, you need to stand with me on this. This is a move that I cannot get behind. Gogic, yes, but we'd need to fire a wig on him, because I just can't be here for a team of more baldies. It's difficult enough working in a pod full of baldies. So a pod full and a team full of baldies. Sorry.
You never know. It might never catch on, Sheryl. Don't worry. We'll see who we're going to be linked with. But for those people that, and I was probably guilty of it. I probably was a bit of a snob when it came to Gogic in the summer, when it was mentioned. But the thing that's now making me revisit it is if you were offered a defender that has played over 100 games, including for Red Star Belgrade, Basel, has won trophies in those countries, and had just made a big money move to the Premiership. On paper, you'd think, what a signing that sounds like, by the way. That sounds great. And then it turns out to be Nasser Jiga, and you see how much of a bomb scare he is. Having a dependable guy like Gogic as part of that back line, I tell you, would do wonders for bloody Fernandes or whoever's playing next to him. But it's the football snobbery that we turn our nose up. We've signed players like Gordon Petric, Marvin Andrews, decent hardy centre halves from Scottish clubs that actually did a decent job for us. So we can't be too picky about who we sign, because if they're going to come in and do a good job, then that's all that matters. Sheryl mentioned it as well. The one that really scratches my head and will continue is some of the moves that we've pulled out of. It's bizarre, and it's looking at getting back to picking the best Scottish talent and bringing them into the team, because that was what we always did. We would always look at supplementing the players that we brought in with somebody that knows the league and knows what it means to play for Rangers and gets what it's all about. And that's what we need to get back to. It's great having these international players that come in, but they don't understand the nuances of the Scottish game. They don't understand the work rate that's required, the lack of time they're going to have on the ball. These guys get it, and they can help educate them a little bit quicker, and also hold them to account when they're not actually pulling their weight on the pitch as well. So, yeah, I think it would be interesting to see just how easy St Mirren would be to deal with. So, who knows?
Davie, were you going to jump in?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think there's one other defender in the top league that is an alternative to Gogic for me, which is Craig Halkett at Hearts. He's got hair, so that's a bonus for Sheryl. And he's out of contract at the end of the season as well. He's got a pretty poor injury record, which maybe puts you off a little bit. But I think he's younger than Gogic, and I think he's got a higher ceiling than Gogic has have. And I think he actually has. He came through the ranks of Rangers, didn't he? He absolutely knows the club, and I think he'd be a pretty sensible one to have a look at as well.
Oh, yeah, interesting. Look, I think the thing is, folks, and I think what is realistic, what you're going to see on this podcast in the next 3 or so weeks is us throwing about a lot of names, because we're all looking for solutions, aren't we? We all want it to be a little bit less poor than it is at this moment. I'm not going to swear. I'm going to be good. Going to be good. There'll be no Alsatian references either. I'm going to get to the end of the pod and I've done well. So, yeah, we all just want it to be a bit better. We all want to seek answers, don't we? All want to grasp onto something Gogic might not be the answer. Kenny McLean might not be the answer. But it's not our job to get the answers. It's our job as fans, and we all have been. It's our job to speculate and have some fun with it. So yeah, that has really been it. It has been a good chat. I didn't expect to get 50 minutes out of it, so I am really delighted. Thank you, Sheryl, as ever.
Thank you. It's been lovely. Nice catch up. Thank you.
Yep, we'll speak about your disciplinary later. Rob, thank you, mate, for joining us. Much appreciated.
No, thanks for having me. It was nice to chat to you all.
Yep, look at you down there hogging all the hair as well. It's shocking. Davie, as always, my man, a pleasure, mate. What have you? We've been filming recently, haven't you? You've done a brilliant one-to-one with Davie Robertson, which is available for all the members. You've done a cracking book review as well, and we've got more coming up.
Yeah, early in the new year, we'll be talking to RTV's famous Mr. Commentator, Tom Miller, about his new Rangers book. I'm sitting down with Tom at the start of January sometime to talk about his book that's come out about the Graham Souness arriving at Rangers, which I'm looking forward to talking to him about.
Yeah, and that's all available, guys, for members. Go and please check out the pods that we do. If you want to become a member, there is a QR code up the top corner. That is also your chance as a member to come on the pod. Somewhere up over there, somewhere up. Somewhere. There is also a chance to come on the podcast if you want to be part of Four Lads. Then, if you're a member, see the pinned posts and come and join us. Thank you as ever for everybody. 5,000 people watching Sunday evening. I have no idea why everybody is so happy and watching. Something to do with people marching in, no doubt. And yes, yeah, we shouldn't laugh. We shouldn't, but we're going to milk it for tonight and then get ready for our own game tomorrow evening, that's for sure. Big thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Fire Protection and Joinery, Athlone Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, Candid, and our Sunday sponsor, Local Dark Shop Online. We appreciate all your help. Folks, I'd like to just apologise on behalf of me being chairman of the Bald Fraternity. Sheryl will be spoken to by Four Lads Management straight away after this, led by Davie. Me being in HR, I'll oversee this disciplinary, but she will be spoken to, folks, that's for sure. We are obviously the best people. So sign more baldies. That's what I say. Alex Godge, come in just for that reason upon all. Kenny and I are in the matchday vlog tomorrow, so please join us for that. We'll have a full report from Ibrox. Kenny made me wash his hat today because I wore it when I was away for a couple of days and he left it in the car. So yeah, it's all fresh and neat for him, like he demanded. And on that note, folks, we'll see you Monday night. Take care. Thanks for joining us. Should I say something about St Mirren before I go? Nah, I won't. I'll be a bigger person, but I am laughing. Good night, folks.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athlone Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.